everyone to the Destination Greater Victoria's first ever Destination Stewardship Series workshop. And the title of our workshop today is Fostering Sustainable Food Systems for the Visitor Economy. And I want to thank you all for making the time to be here and to be a part of this important discussion this morning. Before getting started, I want to recognize that Destination Greater Victoria, our offices are located on the territory of the Lekwungen people, now known as the Songhees and Esquimalt nations. And since we're talking about food systems today and sustainable local food systems, want to acknowledge that First Nations people from across this region have been stewarding local food systems on these lands and in these waters since time immemorial and continue to do so to this day. And with that, I want to welcome you all to the event today. Maybe we'll go to the next slide, please. And so we'll just start. Note that the session is being recorded, and as I said, that's so that we can share this with our members afterwards. And so just hopefully we can all stay on mute and turn our cameras on if you can, if you're comfortable to do so. Slide. Great, so this is the rundown of what we're going to be doing together this morning. We're going to talk a little bit about our DGV's current support for local food systems, and then we're going to get right into it with our speakers, who Sarah will introduce in a minute. And then after that, we'll have a chance to have breakout rooms where we can dive a little deeper into the topics that come up and have a couple questions to help fuel those discussions. And then we'll come back and report back as a group. And so hopefully this can be a dynamic, interactive session where you can all leave with some inspiration and some actionable things that you can take away as well. So from Destination Greater Victoria's perspective, our support for local food systems is relatively new, but we do have some great projects and programs that we are a part of and that we support. So one of them is flavor trails, and that's we're very lucky to have Linda from CRFAIR today as one of the speakers, who CRFAIR runs the Flavor Trails program, and we're proud to partner and sponsor Flavor Trails to help create agritourism experiences to make sure that visitors and locals have the opportunity to really enjoy and experience some of the amazing growers, producers that we have in this region of local sustainable food. And to help create experiences out of that through creating itineraries that we can share with visitors, as well as supporting events like Savor Saanich and the North Saanich Flavor Trails Festival. As well, some of you would have are participants in the Biosphere program, where so Destination Greater Victoria supports that program and offers it as a no-cost benefit to our members, where our members are able to sign up and pursue Biosphere certification for your organization or your business. And Sarah and I will support you on that journey with different resources and help as you follow that path. And Destination Greater Victoria, through that, we also steward the certification of Greater Victoria as a destination, as a region. This pertains to local food systems as Biosphere is tied and measured against the UN SDGs. So, and many of those relate to sustainable, healthy local food. And with that, we just got news this morning, actually, that Destination Greater Victoria has we've made it through the adjudication process, and our Biosphere certification for Greater Victoria has been renewed for the year. So that's great milestone, thanks to Sarah's work. And another program I'd like to tell you about if your business is interested, would be happy to chat with you and make connections. Destination Greater Victoria is a program partner and sponsor of Project Zero's Circular Economy Accelerator program, which is an opportunity for businesses to have an on-site assessment and receive a report outlining key opportunities of how your business can reduce waste, energy use, and emissions, and incorporate leading sustainability practices, often that will result in cost savings and value add opportunities for your business. And this program is the first of its kind in Greater Victoria. It's the first time that we've had a circular economy accelerator on the South Island. And so DGV is proud to be a partner along with the City of Victoria. And we have Rhiannon on this call here who will be speaking to you as well. So if you're interested, please let us know or check out the link there, projectzero.ca/accelerator. Next slide, please. And so this, as I mentioned, this is the first of the Destination Stewardship series. And so really want to thank you for taking the time to participate and especially to our speakers. This is, the idea is to have catalyzing workshop style events. Starting online, we may have some in person designed to foster dialogue and share best practices so that we can move forward together in responsibly stewarding the visitor economy and its supply chain. And so if you have feedback, ideas, topic ideas, anything that you think would be really valuable for your business to learn about, please reach out. Let us know. Let us know how this series can be more beneficial to you or of more interest. We would love to hear your ideas and feedback. Next slide. And with that, I'll hand it over to Sarah to introduce the speakers and guide us through the event.
Awesome. So we've got some amazing speakers today with us. First, we'll be hearing from Linda Geggie, Executive Director of Capital Regional Food and Agriculture Initiatives Roundtable, also known as CRFAIR, which works on behalf of food and farm organizations to facilitate education, information, sharing, and collaborative work in the region through the Good Food Network. CRFAIR has led food policy and planning with local governments, including the creation of Regional Food Charter and contributing to the development of the Regional Food and Agriculture Strategy and Regional Food Land Access Program. And then next, we're going to be hearing from Chef Ken Nakano, Executive Chef at Aura Restaurant in Laurel Point. Chef has had a career that spanned over 25 years and has led a culinary team at globally recognized companies like Rosewood, Shangri-La, and Fairmont Hotels and Resorts. Chef has prioritized sustainability throughout his tenure and supported local growers, producers, ranchers, and fishers whenever possible. And then last but of course not least, we'll have Rhiannon Moore. She is the Circular Economy Specialist at the City of Victoria. Rhiannon holds a Master's of Science from Simon Fraser's University and has received multiple awards for her work, including being named one of Canada's top 30 under 30 sustainability leaders, which is pretty impressive. Her previous work in plastic pollution research led her to a career in waste reduction, communications, and policy with the City of Victoria, where she's been working for the past 4 years, helping her team to implement Zero Waste Victoria, an action plan to help guide the city towards 50% waste reduction by 2040. And with that, I will hand the slides over to Linda to get started on her presentation. So Linda, I'll just give you the slide control here. And you should be good to go.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. It's so nice to be here. And thank you so much to Destination Greater Victoria for inviting me and working as a great partner together with us over the last number of years. We've been really excited about our partnership with the Flavor Trails Initiative, and we might get into that a little bit as we go into the slides here. But I just wanted to let you know that I there's a lot of information on the slides, and so I've given the slideshow to DGV, happy for it to be shared, especially when we get into some information around what our learnings were around how we can improve local food supply into the hospitality industry. We did a major roundtable a number of years ago in 2022, and the slides are quite full of information, but I'll just pick out the highlights. But I just wanted you to have the information if you want to go back to it and look at it again. So yeah, thank you for starting today. And I'm calling in from Husainich territory. We have a little farm here, and I'm a mom of young boys and newly a grandmother. So I'm loving the place that we live, and so pleased to be here today with you. So, it's really sensitive. So today I'm going to give a high flyover about, who is CRFAIR and the Good Food Network, just to give you an introduction, and then a little bit about the connection between food tourism and the circular economy, although Rhiannon's really the expert in the circular economy, and I really enjoyed my work with the Sustainability Committee. We had a really great talk from Jeremy about the circular economy, and I really love to see DGV embracing this as a really important part of destination stewardship. Talk a little bit then around what are the challenges and opportunities around the local food economy and tourism and supporting the visitor experience, and how that's a mutually beneficial thing that we can do to build our local food economy at the same time as it being a foundation for food and culinary tourism. And then there's some great things that we can do together. So I want to finish up with going there. So yeah, CRFAIR, we've been around for about 30 years, if you can believe it or not. I look back at that and think, wow. And we started off as a very informal roundtable of groups and organizations who were interested in food and saw food as a powerful community organizing tool, such a connector for health and sustainability and justice, and also for our local economy. And so we started off in the 90s, but in about 2015, we launched the Good Food Network, which is began to expand the integration of our work in a collective impact strategy called Good Food 2025. And the network has grown to over 100 organizations. And we actually have developed this last year and are launching our community map, which you can go on and see who all of the organizations are, and we can use it for organizing and pulling together groups who are have alignment and want to work together to tackle some of these food system issues that we're working on. But it also provides a listing of farms and markets and where people can access food if they're in positions where they need a little bit of extra help with that. So it's a really good new tool that we have, and I'm happy to share the link to that. It's in Google Maps. We chose to use that platform. Every year we publish a Good Food Network progress report, and I think this is a really invaluable tool. It's on our website. If you can find the link through the slideshow, and it sums up the work that the network has accomplished over the last year towards our core impact areas, which is food literacy, the local food economy, and food access and equity. And it covers a lot of information about key food system issues in our region, as well as then provides highlights for how these different issues that we're trying to work together are being tackled. And so there's some really great information about organizations and initiatives in there. And I think it's really important to note that through working together, we're able to raise over $1.5 million in support for the organizations in the network in terms of building food system infrastructure. The network umbrellas a number of networks that we also support. The Food Share Network gathers and redistributes over 3 million pounds of food through our network and redistributes out to 70 organizations. Yeah, but there's a lot of the development of the school food initiative and the Flourish School Food Society this year, and getting over 1,000 meals now on a daily basis out to 20 schools in School District 62. So that just gives you a little bit of an idea of the scope of our work, and it really does span the whole food system. So that brings us to a little bit to about food in the circular economy. And I know Rhiannon is going to talk about this a little bit more, so I won't dig into this too far, but we really do see the circular economy as being broader than just our food farm fish sector, and the economic interactions between those actors with the food makers and the hospitality industry and the retailers and the grocers. And it also is about regenerative practices within our sector, reducing waste and circulating nutrients and soil health and biodiversity and all of those good things. But we also do see the interaction with that, with the social side of our work, which is, for example, I talked about the 3 million pounds of food that would normally head to the landfill or into composting, that is actually good food that can be recycled into nourishing and healthy food for many people who are in need. So there's lots of opportunity for enhancing the circular economy here in the region. And in terms of tourism, we've talked about this with DGV a lot, and that's about, we really have the opportunity to enhance culinary experiences by connecting people to place-based local foods, and those authentic cultural connections are often what people are coming, and that gives a real experience. There's so much storytelling, and that can help with marketing and lifting up those organizations that are digging into this work to sort out how they can work with our local food and fish and farm providers. So I think it really does make a difference when people are choosing places to go there. It really differentiates our area. We have a real West Coast cuisine that's emergent, and amazing chefs. Like, I can't wait to hear from Ken today, but this is helping to make these connections, this circularity, to build a more regenerative economy. And we're seeing lots of job creation in this area. And of course, climate change and all the environmental impacts that are important to address on the daily. And, by supporting local, that's one of the things that we can do. And there's a lot of opportunity to build connections across the community, engage folks all across the spectrum of from field and farm and fish and to the plate. So here's the slides. That's a little overwhelming. This is I just wanted to talk about this roundtable that we held back in 2022 though today, because although we have all these opportunities, there's actually quite a few barriers within the local food system to be able to supply and support the hospitality and retail industry, because quite frankly, here there are the cost of food production and distribution and labor and are quite a bit higher than other areas. And we're used to seeing a lot of cheap food coming through the global food economy. And so when we're trying to make these connections to our small but mighty growers and makers from the region, there are some barriers. And so in 2022, we held a really interesting roundtable. Was hosted by then-time Mayor Fred Haynes and Lana Popham to see, okay, what's the barriers between getting food onto the plates of local restaurants. And in particular, there was a lot of talk about just knowing where to access the food, and that it's about how do we find it, what's available, and price has been a barrier. And so when the things that the restaurants really talked about was, timing and menu planning, and trying to link it to seasonal cycles and abundance, just making those linkages with this whole plethora of local farms. The distribution from the small farms is really difficult. And there's such a sort of limited crop availability as well. So these were some of the things we heard and I'm sure Ken will talk about some of those things as well. And on the farm side, we really heard about, we have the majority of our farms sell to the farm gate. They are small, they are diversified, and they don't produce the quantity and the consistency of supply that is often needed by those larger wholesale and distribution companies. And so trying to find ways to aggregate and distribute so that it's easier to access those. I think also just really, they said really making it clear about the barriers that they face, and that how, you know, they can do crop planning, but who knows what's going to happen with the weirding of the climate and the weather these days. And so that can also be a real challenge in terms of the variability of supply. So comes right down to also the price, you know, the cost of production here is really, you know, in terms of land access and labor and all of the inputs, there's a lot of regulatory issues that farms are dealing with, as well as our makers. We have an amazing maker community out there that are built, especially around cultural foods, really interesting. So yeah, there's they're very small scale, and I think this is probably the biggest part of our barrier. So yeah, so we do see lots of opportunities, and this is where I'll sum them up to, like, really building relationships and educating each other about, you know, seasonal abundance, what's available, how we can access these foods, how chefs can think about what are those real local and seasonal opportunities to build their menus around. And then I would love to bring back the Meet Your Maker event, which is where we bring the farmers and food makers in our region together with chefs and wholesalers, so that we can really start to build those relationships. And then the other one is really that we need to build our infrastructure for supply. How do we support these smaller growers to aggregate and distribute their supply chain to be serving beyond the farmer's market, beyond the farm gate, into our hospitality industry and also the retail sector. So I'll just tell you a little bit about the South Island Farm Hub, because this is something new and you may not know about it. This was one of the COVID responses that developed into a really wonderful opportunity in our region, and that is where we had farmers with their crops in the field, and all the farmers markets and were shutting down, and restaurants were closing, and we were also seeing the influx of emergency food relief funding. And so what we were able to do, by being both in relation with the farmers as well as all the emergency food agencies, we were able to direct those emergency food relief dollars into the agencies to purchase from the South Island Farm Hub. And started out with 20 growers, is grown now to over 115 food processors and food producers, from fish to flowers. And over the last 3 years, over $1.2 million has gone into the local food economy by aggregating between all of these food processors and farmers, and then being able to create a marketing platform that then we're able to have these agencies, but also restaurants and home box customers, school meal programs, purchasing from this platform and then delivering right to their door. So it's sort of a response that has created the opportunity for us to aggregate between all of these small growers and producers within the local food economy, and then start to do this distribution work that needs to happen. So one of the things that we know is that the price point is still prohibitive for the wholesale purchasers. And so that's our focus right now, is really building up to include some of our larger growers and growers that are willing to grow more for wholesale, so that we could be able to service the restaurant economy more. So we're happy to work together with the restaurants to figure out what they're looking for and how we might be able to supply that. So in conclusion, I just wanted to show you, this is where all the different farms are. It's very locally supplied, the South Island Farm Hub. Everything comes within 100 kilometers. Yeah. Oh, and then there's the flavor trails. Just talking about that a little bit as a real opportunity to promote all of the restaurants and folks supporting the circular economy and distributing local food, preparing local food, and the taste of the region into flavor trails. And we have a North Saanich flavor trails the Savor Saanich Peninsula flavor trails, but there's lots of opportunity to develop more and additional flavor trails. I would especially love to do that with our restaurant community in the future. So those are some of the opportunities that Jeremy and I will keep working on and talk more about. So yeah, just want to put it out there that there's lots of opportunities to get on board with the circular food economy, and we want to continue to, I didn't talk a lot about reducing food waste today, but there's lots of opportunity to build relationships, to do more local procurement, and tell this great story we have around this amazing cuisine we have in all of our creative growers and makers. So I'm excited about that work together with DGV, and look forward to talking more about it with you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Linda. That was awesome. There's so much great information on your slides. We'll definitely be sure to send those out after the session is done. And I'd like to open up the floor for questions. If anybody has any questions for Linda at this time, feel free to type it in the chat or come off mute and ask directly. It's whatever you're comfortable with. If not, you can always type it in the chat later on and we can get to it after some of the other presentations have come through. Awesome. So we are on to our next presenter, Chef Ken. And you're welcome to take it away. Oh, I think you're on mute.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for inviting me to share some of our sustainability initiatives, Destination Greater Victoria. I'd like to start off with how we minimize food waste as a major part of our sustainability program. Here at the end, we're having some success through staff training, accurate recipes, proper purchasing based on events, PARs, and organized storage. Seems like it's pretty run-of-the-mill stuff, but that's our main control point that we practice to get our best results. This is where it all begins. Our staff are trained to calculate amounts based on each recipe item needed. Our ordering days are set and consistent along with our supplier relationships built. The teams can organize their prep items based around our delivery schedules, with proteins being the closest to the event dates. I think so often we have this beautiful access to this beautiful products, and we just need to make sure that we're maximizing everything that we're sourcing. A la carte restaurants are challenging, as Aura is, but through menu design, we strive to minimize overproduction and waste through maximizing each ingredient and offering it in multiple forms, tracking POS trends, portion control, staff guest communication, all help us sort of navigate this a la carte world of flying by feel. We're always going by gut instinct and trying to make our best guess, having a bit of a smaller picture to sort of lead us the way, but through metrics and those kind of things, we kind of draw a picture for ourselves. Every restaurant's goal is to be reservation driven, but being a hotel dining room, this is not possible. We're always working by events communication, whether they're groups on own or what we have booked in, who's got meal planned, who doesn't, capture ratios, walk-ins. Again, we strive to maximize offerings while minimizing the amount of raw ingredients on hand. We cross-utilize as much as we can and make that a priority as we design our 3 meal periods, happy hour, cafe, and in-room dining that are all coming from the same cooking line. So a lot of it we control through menu design. We try to offer the same thing through various menus. We just look like we have a huge assortment of offerings, but we try to get as much as we can from each ingredient. Events is challenging for us. We begin minimizing waste from the point of contact, and that's through our knowledgeable sales team. Proper food amount, items are ordered, sold, accurate event orders, timely updates, whether it be dietary or a number of changes, all of which should fall within our contracted timeline. So it keeps us proactive, which is another big thing for food services. As long as we're proactive, we can really control a lot of the things that we can. The things that we cannot control, they're out of our hands. That's just part of the business, but there's a lot that we can look after. Properly controlling what we can, it leaves us more room to react to the curveballs, which there always are. Reactive events are the most wasteful for both food and labor, so that's a real key point. Plated events are a lot more straightforward, recipe calculation, but when it comes to buffets, we use an average consumption template that we've developed over time and based on meal period, demographic, type of event, etc. It's about 85% accurate. You know, we're always tweaking it. We're always looking at things that we remind our staff to trust these ratios and their own calculations when they go to prep and order. 5% uncooked backup is always calculated in and is available should we need it. This eliminates the anxiety and need to prep and overproduce. I think in the kitchens I've seen, there's always, it's such a passion-driven industry, and there's always that emotional connection, and we want to make sure that we're prepared. There's a lot involved, so a lot of these calculations sometimes go by feel, which we find we need to calculate. Again, feeling and sensing is one thing, but when we're talking about larger groups, 100, 200,000 people, it needs to be something that's very, very calculated. Sometimes we get caught and we need to run, but it's a very low percentage of the time. Our ratios are pretty tight, and we're always working on how to communicate within the team to make sure that we're ordering the right amount, prepping the right amount, and serving the right amount. And then we always have our contingency. Any overages that occur, and they do, they're properly stored and not put out. Those can be used for staff meals. So not so much revenue generating, but there's definitely no food waste, so we minimize the waste of food that way. We provide a daily buffet for staff consisting of salad bar, hot protein, vegetable starch, soup, and dessert. It's about 100 people a day, so that's something that also helps us sort of stop the food waste. Again, for our bottom line, we try to be as accurate as we can to sell the event food as that. You know, we support local and source as seasonal as we can. Through menu design, we try and utilize all ingredients for all outlets, with events being the most challenging for a farm-to-table approach. We have developed many strong relationships within our food community and showcase their seasonal products wherever we can. You know, Linda said it all, or the opportunity slide that sums it all up, whether it be distribution, seasonality, crop failure, weather, there's all sorts of variables. But I think through staff knowledge and sort of getting that story out to the guests, the expectations change as they become to understand what does it mean to source locally and serve seasonal food on the scale that we do. Our restaurant menu reflects seasonality, and our servers teams are familiar with our growers, suppliers, and what's in season. Educating our guests on the various menu items throughout the seasons has been a journey, and it's getting easier to maintain our farm-to-table approach. People are starting to see Aura not so much as the continental hotel restaurant, the usual kind of offerings. We've made our own concept, and we're sticking by it, and we're getting a good loyal following. So that's something we're very proud of. We have over an acre of waterfront culinary garden, and again, Sarah was asking us for photos, and these ones are always, you know, inspiring for the team, and they're always a lot of fun for us. Over the last 2 or 3 years, we produced an average of about 350 kilos of various produce. Not a whole lot of any one particular thing, but it's enough to showcase in the restaurant to our guest delight. And it keeps our teams engaged and excited about the next fruit or vegetable. It's amazing how temperate our waterfront garden is. We grow all kinds of stuff in here, and the shape of the building really creates a lot of microclimates, so that we have a lot of interesting things going on, from kiwi to umeboshi, ume plums to sea buckthorn. Julia here, she's got a whole bucket full of salal, and of course that's something that we have tons of it. There's sea buckthorn on property, onions, garlic, all those kind of things are growing. So I think that wraps it up for me. Other than the preparation for a lot of the single-use plastic kind of things. So that's the next thing on our priority come 2028 for saran wrap. So food wrap, the elimination of that is something that's going to be a big challenge, I think, for the industry as a whole. But we're trying to do our part. But that wraps it up for me. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ken. You're doing so much and you're doing a great job, and your images here of your farm are just inspiring. It's really cool. I'll open the floor up to questions now. If anybody has any questions for Ken, feel free to put it in the chat or come on. I'll give you a little bit of time. Everyone in the chat here? Okay, question for Ken for later. In terms of pricing, how do you find local produce at the comparable costs?
It's comparable now. I think during COVID, there was a lot of awareness around the costs of food because of the supply chain problems. We were finding that a lot of the southern produce was comparable in price to our local stuff. So as we scaled our menu costs during that time, we find ourselves now at a point where with the inflated costs of food from everywhere, the local food is fitting a lot into our menus a lot nicer. And not so much in the a la carte restaurant, but now it's starting to head into events. We've cultivated a few good relationships with some larger farms that can kind of keep up with more of our, shorter lead time event volumes. But pricing it's not affordable, but it's a lot more in line with the commodity stuff, I find now.
Awesome.
I hope that answers your question. I think there's we're also pretty lucky that we can pass a lot of our costs on to our demographic. So that works out good. We try to control things with portion size and those kind of things. So the concept of the restaurant is more share plates, which is a lot more conducive to be able to control costs, portion costs through that.
Great. And then we have another question from Rhiannon. Chef Ken, what is your favorite local ingredient to work with?
Right now, asparagus. I think
Nice.
our rhubarb is booming. I think anything that's in season is kind of the favorite thing to work with for me. Here, it's remarkable how much we can grow here on the island with all the different microclimates, the different citrus available, the different seafood, all those kind of things. But I'm really looking forward to spot prawn season. It's just around the corner.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Now on to Rhiannon for our final speaker. I'll give you sharing privileges. 1 second. Hey, Rhiannon, you should be good to go.
All right, great. Thanks everyone for being here. Thank you, Destination Greater Victoria, for inviting me. I'm excited to talk about kind of what the city's doing, and different opportunities for diversion, and especially for the hospitality sector. And I'll share some data that we have too, just to give you kind of a snapshot of food waste in our community. Oops, there we go. I know it's been acknowledged already, but I do want to acknowledge that I both work and live. This continues to, this is very sensitive. On the traditional homelands of the Songhees and Esquimalt people. And I'm very lucky to be able to source a lot of local food from this area as well. I'm actually a member of South Island Farm Hub, which Linda mentioned, and I've been getting a box of food from South Island Farm Hub every Thursday, and I'm very passionate about working with local food. I grew up working on a farm, so it's kind of deeply rooted in myself as well. And I'm definitely like a proud mother of a sourdough starter that I get all of my grains from Nootka Rose Milling, and I'll get dried kelp from the South Island Farm Hub and make a beautiful focaccia and put dried kelp on top. And I just love working with local ingredients. So this is a topic that's very personally interesting to me, and I also work in waste reduction. So I'm happy to be here. So I'm just going to talk very quickly about what Zero Waste Victoria is, go into the impact of food waste and the city's role, and then just chat about a couple opportunities that we're seeing pop up for the hospitality sector. So if you're unaware, Zero Waste Victoria was adopted by the city in December of 2020. And essentially it's just a long-term plan with many different strategies in it, 40 actually. And it's to get us to 50% waste reduction by 2040. And the emphasis in Zero Waste Victoria is on reduction and reuse, and then of course recycling at the end, but we really want that emphasis at the top of the waste reduction hierarchy. So yeah, we actually just provided an update to council recently, and we are 15% on our way to the 50% target by 2040. So yeah, we've got lots of great initiatives on the go. We have a section within Zero Waste Victoria on food waste. These goals seem very simple, but we have all these different strategies, and the goals are simple but very clear. So essentially, at the end of the day, for Zero Waste Victoria, we want all edible food eaten and all unavoidable food and organic waste is recovered. So I think it's interesting because I find when just chatting with my friends and different people, a lot of people might not realize that when food waste ends up in the landfill and it's not composted properly, it actually creates greenhouse gases. A lot of those gases are actually methane gas, which is 21 times more potent than CO2. So it's quite a big problem. The good news, I guess, on the other side of that is locally, the CRD who operates our landfill does a great job of capturing that gas and converting it into energy. But if we look at this globally around the world, about 8% of our greenhouse gases comes from food waste. And so we really want to think about the connection between climate and climate change and food waste. And then when we're wasting food as well, it's not that we're just wasting that food, it's that we're also throwing out the things that contributed to growing that food. So the human labor, the packaging, the land, the energy, the water that was used to grow that food. And so we really want to think of it from going from linear economy, which is kind of that take, make, waste framework, to the circular economy. And Linda, I know you were like, oh, Rhiannon, you're an expert on circular economy, but after hearing you speak, you are definitely an expert on the circular economy. You totally get how, we need to look at things holistically. We need to look at the entire system. So it's kind of a system lens of things. Organics, including food waste, were actually banned from the landfill in 2015. And so this is really interesting because essentially we were seeing, but the Capital Regional District, who owns and operates the landfill, they were seeing about 30% of items that are going into the landfill as organic waste before 2015. So they created this ban to try to reduce those greenhouse gas emissions and allow for more space in the landfill as well, because that organic material does take up quite a bit of space. The interesting thing is that there's still a significant amount of organic waste, including food waste, ending up in the landfill despite that ban. I pulled this data from the CRD's most recent waste composition study, which basically just says, hey, this is all the different stuff going in the landfill. So it's a snapshot. And I pulled the ICI sector, so the hospitality sector is within this. So this is very specific to your industry. Of the 20% of organic waste that the hospitality sector is sending to landfill, over half of that is avoidable or donatable food waste. So I think it's 12.4%. So that's still quite significant. And we really want to work on that. That being said, when you look at kind of the entire view of food waste across Canada, you can see that, you know, food waste comes from a variety of different industries and kind of along the value chain. So hotels and restaurants right here is the brown, so that's 9%, so still fairly significant. You can see that people at home definitely have a lot of work to do in terms of reducing food waste at home too. So that just kind of gives you a snapshot of your industry. It's stuck again. There we go. Ooh. So the city's role in terms of food waste is what I would consider more downstream. So we'd have different policy levers at our fingertips that we can use to create change. And in terms of food waste, it's more downstream. And what I mean by that is like managing when food becomes waste. So we have our green bin collection from residential properties, as well as our downtown, what we call our zero waste stations. So we have those in downtown streets and different parks. So it's the green bin there in the right photo. Just in so we have 38 of these that we've recently installed. And just in 2023 alone, we diverted 18,000 pounds of organic material from these bins, which is great. And we like to provide those opportunities for people, you know, walking along with maybe they have a half-eaten burger and they, you know, we'd like people to put it in the compost bin versus the black bin, the landfill bin. So yeah, we've seen that these have been very successful. The city also does have a role to play in education. This is just an example. So we've installed these educational messages from Love Food, Hate Waste on our waste collection trucks, just to remind people about food waste reduction, and posted on social media. Again, it's not everyone is on social media, but we're trying to get the message out where we can. This was an event that we had last year, which Linda spoke at, and this is Chef Hammer. So this is part of our circular economy speaker series that we launched last year. And we had our last event in October was on food waste, and these were all in person, and we had 80 people attend it, and it included a lot of local food. We had food from South Island Farm Hub. We had a huge spread of food that Chef Hammer and his team put out, all food that was rescued and could have gone to landfill. And so not only did we kind of bring together all these different experts in local food growing and food waste reduction, but we also were able to feed people food that could have been wasted, and we're showing people, you know, this is good food that can be eaten. And yeah, it was a great event, and so we're hoping to do that event all over again this year. We've seen a lot of demand for this event, so I think that'll be another thing that happens this October. And I think especially coming out of COVID, people really love to come together and eat good food at the end of the day. So it was very successful. Some solutions that we've seen pop up for the hospitality sector. Some of you might be aware of Too Good To Go. You can actually, I took a screenshot from my phone there. This is what the app looks like, and it basically just connects the restaurant industry with consumers. So you can see here, actually, Huntington Manor Hotel is on the Too Good To Go app, and you can essentially get food at the end of the day that they have left over in a little goodie bag that's like half price what they would normally sell it for. And so it provides affordable food for community members, and you're also reducing waste along the way. So we're really seeing that app grow, and it's great to see that. There's also Better Table, which is a really great resource if you want to complete like a food waste audit and kind of optimize your use of materials. And they also have really great training for food waste reduction for culinary staff. There's also Second Harvest, which is Canada-wide, and they have many different charities and organizations that they support, and their model is more redistributing food throughout that value chain. I would say that in our community, the Food Redistribution Center is essentially filling that space in our community. So it's kind of like a mini version of Second Harvest. I don't know, Linda, yeah, shaking your head. Yeah, so, and if anyone has not seen the Food Redistribution Center or know about it, it's so impressive and fantastic. And the amount of food that they get from suppliers that is bound to be wasted, and they redistribute it throughout the community, it's just very impressive and such an essential service in our community. Yeah, that's another thing that we are really pleased to see in the community. And if you are interested in participating in it, I encourage you to reach out to the Food Share Network or the Mustard Seed. This is a little chart that I kind of did very last minute to kind of tie everything together, to kind of maybe help visualize different opportunities along the value chain, I would say, or like types of interventions for food waste. So the first spot is just food waste prevention, so just reducing that waste overall. And so that's things that can help you with that are things like waste audits, menu planning. Chef Ken talked a lot about that in his talk, in terms of like really thinking and planning out that to even prevent that waste from even occurring. So some good resources for that could be Better Table. There's also the Too Good To Go app. In terms of food waste recovery, so more like what you could consider reuse. There's redistribution centers. There's also donations. So I actually bring a lot of my extra food that might be close to its expiry date to the community fridge in Rock Bay. So again, the resources for that are the Food Redistribution Center. There's also Second Harvest. And then last, kind of on that waste reduction hierarchy, after reduce, reuse, then there's the recycle. So what we want to think of as landfill diversion. So just making sure you have an organics bin. So a great thing for that is just ensure that you have an organics bin, like your food waste, things that are bound for landfill are actually going into a green bin. I know that sometimes the services for organics collection, especially for our business sector, can be kind of spotty. We've heard that from some food service businesses, like, you know, their organics is collected a lot less frequently than their garbage, and so it, you know, it becomes smelly, and so they don't really want to have organics because they need it collected. And so one thing that the city is looking at is actually introducing a pilot in 2025, next year, to kind of have like an opt-in service for food service businesses, to have that continuous, reliable collection of green waste. So stay tuned for that. And I think that is my last slide. I just threw my our team's email there, zerowaste@victoria.ca, and then there's also mine, rmoore@victoria.ca. So if you have any questions after this presentation that you think of, just feel free to reach out.